Welcome back, American Coin Hunter. Today, we're going to explore one of the most fascinating coins in everyday American pocket change, the 1990 United States 1-cent coin. This is a coin that most people have held, spent, saved in jars, found at garage sales, and maybe even forgotten in piggy banks. But even a humble penny, especially the 1990 Lincoln cent, can tell a story of art, history, technology, economics, mistakes, and even dramatic surprises. So let's dive deep into the world of the 1990 penny with as much detail and insight as possible. First, let's talk about what the 1990 penny actually is. The official name of the coin is the United States Lincoln cent. Its denomination is 1 cent, meaning it has a face value of $0 and 1 cent. It's the smallest denomination coin ever produced by the United States Mint in modern times, and it's part of a series that goes all the way back to 1909. When the Lincoln cent was introduced to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The year 1990 sits within the long run of what numismatists call the Lincoln Memorial cents. From 1959 until 2008, the reverse, back, of the penny featured the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., designed by Frank Gasparro, a design meant to honor Lincoln's legacy and reflect the enduring national reverence for his leadership. On the front, or obverse, of the coin is a portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, based on a design by the renowned sculptor Victor David Brenner that debuted in 1909. This pairing of Lincoln's portrait and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse creates one of the most iconic and longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. All 1990 pennies share the same composition, a core of mostly zinc with a thin outer plating of copper. Since 1982, pennies have been made of 97.5% zinc with just 2.5% copper plating, a cost-saving measure that dramatically reduced weight and metal cost compared to earlier bronze cents. Because of this, the 1990 penny is lighter and chemically different from pre-1982 pennies. It weighs 2.50 grams and measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter with a smooth edge. When you hold a 1990 penny in your hand, here's exactly what you're looking at. On the obverse side is the right-facing bust of Abraham Lincoln, an image so familiar that millions of Americans recognize it instantly. Around Lincoln are the words "In God We Trust" across the top, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1990 to the right. Depending on where it was made, you may see a small mint mark under the date, a D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco, or no mint mark at all, which indicates it was struck in Philadelphia. Flip the coin over, and you see the Lincoln Memorial, its columns surrounding a tiny but visible statue of Lincoln from inside the structure. Around the upper rim are the words United States of America and E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many, one, a motto deeply tied to American identity. Beneath the memorial appears the denomination, 1 cent. You can also find the designer's initials, FG, for Frank Gasparro, near the base of the memorial. Now you might be wondering, with all of this history, and with some collectors paying high prices for rare coins, could a 1990 penny be worth $283 million? The straightforward answer from real market data and professional price guides is no. The most valuable known 1990 Lincoln cents, particularly rare proof varieties like the 1990 No-S proof, which was accidentally struck without a San Francisco mint mark, have sold in the thousands to tens of thousands of dollars, not tens or hundreds of millions. These rare varieties are classified among top 100 modern U.S. coins, and their value reflects scarcity and collector demand, not face value alone. Let's break down the most important varieties and what they're really worth. The vast majority of 1990 pennies are what collectors call business strikes, coins produced for everyday circulation. These include those minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and even San Francisco. Those San Francisco coins that year were mostly proof coins. Billions were struck, about $6.85 billion in Philadelphia and $4.92 billion in Denver. With numbers that high, a standard 1990 penny in worn, circulated condition is typically worth only its face value or just a little more, still around 1 cent, in uncirculated condition, which means the coin has virtually no wear from circulation. Prices can rise. A high-grade example, graded MS 65 or above by a professional service, may sell for a few dollars or potentially several hundred. depending on condition and color. Some rare exceptional specimens graded MS 68 or MS 69 can fetch thousands of dollars, but these are extremely uncommon. Perhaps the most famous 1990 variety is the 1990 NOS proof. This coin was intended to be struck at the San Francisco Mint as a proof coin, a specially prepared coin made for collectors with mirror-like fields and sharp details. But due to a minting error, a small number of proof coins were struck without the S mint mark. Today, fewer than around 200 of these coins are known to exist, making them a true modern rarity. Depending on grade, NOS proof examples have sold in the range of about $1,860 up to around $20,700 or more at auction. Let's talk for a moment about errors and anomalies. Occasionally, collectors find coins with unusual characteristics, such as doubled dies, off-center strikes, or even pennies struck on the wrong planchet. Some collectors have reported finding pennies that appear heavier or have strange surfaces, but many of these turn out to be altered pieces or novelty items not made by the U.S. Mint. Authentic errors that are documented and confirmed by grading services, such as a wrong planchet strike, can dramatically increase a coin's value because they are true minting mistakes with historical significance. Some rare errors on Lincoln cents from other years have sold for tens of thousands of dollars. But again, these are exceptions, not what you should expect when you find a 1990 penny in your pocket. Why are common coins so often worth only face value, while rare varieties fetch high premiums? The answer lies in supply and demand and collector behavior. With over 11 billion 1990 business strikes produced, ordinary pennies are extremely common. But coins that were manufactured in small numbers or minted under unusual circumstances are much rarer. Collectors prize rarity, especially when combined with high condition grades or intriguing backstories. That's why even a slight change in mint mark, finish, or error can transform a mundane coin into a sought-after treasure. In the world of coin grading, experts evaluate coins on a scale from poor to mint state 70. Coins in the highest grades, near perfect, are exceptionally rare for zinc-based Lincoln cents because the soft metal surface wears easily and is prone to scratches, corrosion, and handling marks. A 1990 penny that grades MS 69 red or MS 70 red, indicating superb strike quality, full red color, and flawless surfaces, could potentially bring several $1,000s in today's market. There's also color grading to consider. Pennies are often described as red, RD, red-brown, RB, or brown, BN. Red coins retain much of their original mint luster and copper color, while brown coins have darkened over time due to oxidation. Red and red-brown coins generally command higher prices among collectors because they look more attractive and have lost less of their original appearance. Now let's step back from the hardcore numbers and think about the story behind this coin. The Lincoln cent, including 1990 examples, isn't just metal stamped with value. It's a continuation of a tradition that began in 1909 when the U.S. Mint decided to honor Abraham Lincoln with the first widely circulated U.S. coin to bear the portrait of a real person. That was groundbreaking at the time. Since then, generations of Americans have handled Lincoln cents in everyday life, using them to make purchases, saving them as keepsakes, and passing them down as souvenirs of personal history. Now let's continue even deeper into the story of the 1990 United States 1-cent coin, because the more you study this small copper-colored piece, the more layers of meaning, mystery, and fascination begin to appear. What seems ordinary at first slowly transforms into something that feels alive with history, economics, human behavior, and the psychology of collecting. When collectors examine a 1990 penny closely, one of the first things they look for is condition. Condition is everything in numismatics. Two coins struck in the same year, at the same mint, on the same day, can end up having vastly different values decades later simply because one was handled carefully while the other passed through thousands of hands. The zinc-based composition of the 1990 penny makes this especially important. Zinc is a relatively soft metal, and once the thin copper plating is breached, corrosion can begin almost immediately. That's why many circulated 1990 pennies show dull gray spots, bubbling, or peeling surfaces. Coins with intact copper plating and full original luster are far scarcer than most people realize. collectors also pay close attention to strike quality. Even among uncirculated 1990 cents, not all strikes are equal. Some coins were struck with weak pressure, resulting in soft details in Lincoln's hair or the columns of the Lincoln Memorial. Others show sharp, crisp lines and full design detail, which makes them far more desirable. The sharper the strike, the higher the potential grade, and the higher the grade, the more dramatic the jump in market value can be. This is why professional grading services exist, to separate the truly exceptional coins from the merely average ones. Another fascinating area of interest with the 1990 penny is die varieties. Every coin is struck using dies, and those dies wear out, crack, chip, and sometimes develop unusual features. Some 1990 pennies show minor doubled lettering, especially in the date or the word Liberty. While many examples of doubling are the result of mechanical doubling and add little value, genuine doubled die varieties are eagerly sought by collectors. These occur when the die itself is misaligned during the hubbing process, creating a true doubled image that is part of the coin's design. Finding a legitimate doubled die 1990 penny is extremely rare, but it's one of the reasons collectors continue to search through rolls of pennies even today. Then there are off-center strikes, another category that fascinates error collectors. An off-center 1990 penny may show part of the design missing, with a blank crescent of metal on one side. The more dramatic the off-center strike, especially if the date is still visible, the higher the value tends to be. Some off-center errors from Lincoln cents have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on severity and eye appeal. These coins represent moments when the minting machinery didn't behave as intended, freezing a mechanical mishap into metal history. But let's talk about planchets, because this is where some of the most intriguing stories emerge. A planchet is the blank metal disc that becomes a coin after being struck. Occasionally, pennies are struck on the wrong planchet. For example, a dime planchet or a foreign coin planchet. While extremely rare for 1990 cents, such errors do exist across the Lincoln cent series. A genuine 1990 penny struck on the wrong planchet would be a major numismatic discovery and could command very high prices at auction, potentially tens of thousands of dollars or more, depending on the circumstances. These coins are instantly recognizable by their incorrect weight and unusual appearance, but they must always be authenticated by professionals to rule out post-mint tampering. Beyond errors, there's also the psychological side of collecting that makes coins like the 1990 penny endlessly interesting. Humans are naturally drawn to the idea that something small and overlooked could be secretly valuable. The penny embodies that hope more than almost any other object in American culture. People search their change jars, inherit old collections, and watch online videos with the dream that one ordinary-looking coin might turn out to be extraordinary. Even when most pennies are worth face value, the possibility of rarity keeps the hunt alive. The 1990 penny also exists within a broader economic conversation. For decades, the cost of producing a penny exceeded its face value, leading to debates about whether the denomination should be eliminated. These discussions intensified in the years after 1990, but even then, the seeds of the debate were present. The zinc-based composition introduced in the early 1980s was itself a response to rising copper prices. Every 1990 penny, therefore, represents a compromise between tradition and economic reality, a symbol of how governments adapt their currency systems to changing market conditions. Collectors often divide Lincoln cents into eras, and the 1990 penny belongs to the modern era, a time of massive mintages, advanced minting technology, and relatively low individual coin values. Yet within this modern era, certain coins still rise above the rest. The 1990 NOS proof is a perfect example. Its existence reminds collectors that even with modern quality control, mistakes still happen. The excitement surrounding this variety isn't just about money, it's about discovery. Every time someone opens an old proof set or examines a shiny proof set, there's a tiny thrill of possibility. Could this be one of the missing mint mark coins? Another aspect that makes the 1990 penny compelling is how it bridges generations. Many people alive today were children or young adults in 1990. That means these pennies were part of everyday life. Used to buy candy, dropped in arcade machines, saved in school fundraisers, and collected casually without much thought. Decades later, those same pennies resurface as objects of study and nostalgia. Holding a 1990 penny can evoke memories of a specific time in American life. The early days of the digital age, the end of the Cold War, and a rapidly changing world. But there's also the visual artistry to consider. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln is one of the most reproduced images in human history. By 1990, this design had been in use for over 80 years, yet it remained largely unchanged. That continuity is rare in modern coinage. When you look at a 1990 penny, you're seeing a design that connects you directly to the early 20th century, to the era when Lincoln's image was first chosen to appear on circulating coinage. That sense of continuity adds emotional and historical weight to even the most common examples. Some collectors specialize exclusively in Lincoln cents, building complete sets that include every date, mint mark, and major variety. For these collectors, the 1990 penny is a required piece, not because it's rare, but because completeness matters. A missing year breaks the narrative of the collection. In this context, even a common coin has importance, because it fills a gap and completes a story that spans more than a century. Another overlooked factor is storage and preservation. Many 1990 pennies that could have been valuable lost potential worth due to improper storage. Exposure to moisture, heat, and air can damage zinc cents quickly. This is why serious collectors use protective holders, climate-controlled environments, and careful handling techniques. A pristine 1990 penny stored correctly since the day it was minted could look dramatically different from one that spent years in circulation or sat loose in a drawer. As time goes on, the number of high-grade 1990 pennies will continue to decline. Coins are lost, damaged, corroded, or melted accidentally. While billions were minted, only a tiny fraction remain in top condition. This gradual attrition is one reason why even modern coins can appreciate in value over long periods. Scarcity isn't just about how many were made. It's about how many survive in desirable condition. Let's continue even further, because the deeper you go into the world of the 1990 United States 1-cent coin, the more you realize how a single penny can reflect human behavior, market psychology, misinformation, hope, patience, and the long-term evolution of money itself. This is where the story becomes not just about metal and minting, but about people. One of the most powerful forces shaping the perceived value of the 1990 penny is myth. In the age of the internet, stories spread faster than facts. Claims of pennies worth hundreds of millions of dollars circulate on social media, video platforms, and click-driven websites. These stories often start with a grain of truth, such as the existence of a rare mint error or a valuable proof variety, and then grow into something exaggerated beyond recognition. Over time, repetition creates belief, and belief fuels searches, videos, and conversations. The 1990 penny becomes a symbol of hidden wealth, even when the real market values are far more modest. This phenomenon isn't unique to the 1990 penny. It happens with many modern coins, but the penny is especially vulnerable because almost everyone has access to one. When people hear that an everyday object could be worth a fortune, it activates a deep psychological response. The idea that life-changing value might be sitting unnoticed in a drawer or a jar is incredibly compelling. That emotional pull keeps people searching, watching, and hoping, and that, in turn, keeps coins like the 1990 cent constantly in the spotlight. Another layer of the story is collector behavior at auctions. Auction prices are often misunderstood. When people see headlines claiming a penny sold for thousands of dollars, they assume all similar pennies must be worth the same. In reality, auction results reflect very specific circumstances: the exact coin, its certified grade, its color designation, the reputation of the grading service, the timing of the auction, and the emotions of the bidders. Two collectors competing for a top population 1990 penny can drive prices far beyond typical market levels, but that doesn't redefine the value of the average coin. The grading population reports play a major role here. Professional grading companies keep records of how many coins they've graded at each level. For the 1990 penny, the number of coins graded at extremely high levels, such as MS 69 red, is tiny compared to the billions minted. This scarcity at the top creates competition among collectors who want the best of the best. When one of these coins appears at auction, It can attract intense attention and achieve a price that seems shocking to outsiders. Yet, this is a reflection of scarcity within a specific niche, not a universal valuation. There's also the concept of registry sets. Many advanced collectors participate in registry programs where they compete to build the highest graded sets of a particular coin series. In these competitions, even a single grade point can make a dramatic difference. A 1990 penny graded MS-68 might be common within the registry world, while an MS-69 could be a key piece that elevates a collection's ranking. This competitive environment pushes demand for top-graded examples far beyond what casual collectors might expect. Now let's look at the 1990 penny from the perspective of time. Coins don't gain or lose significance overnight. Their stories evolve slowly. In 1990, no one thought these pennies would ever be discussed in the context of major value. They were simply part of everyday commerce. But as decades pass, patterns emerge. Certain years become known for errors, others for high-quality strikes, others for unusual survival rates. Over time, collectors begin to reevaluate coins that were once overlooked. This slow reevaluation is part of what keeps numismatics alive and constantly changing. The 1990 penny also highlights the tension between face value and perceived value. Officially, it's worth 1 cent, nothing more. But perception transforms that number. A collector sees potential. A historian sees context. A casual observer sees spare change. A content creator sees a story. Each perspective assigns a different kind of value. None of these values are wrong. They simply serve different purposes. Another important aspect is the role of education. Many people don't know how to properly identify valuable coins. They might focus only on the date, ignoring condition, mint mark, and authenticity. This leads to disappointment when a penny they believe to be valuable turns out to be ordinary. But it also leads to curiosity. That curiosity often becomes the first step into learning about coin grading, mint history, and the broader world of collecting. In this way, the 1990 penny acts as a gateway coin, simple enough for beginners, yet complex enough to reward deeper study. We should also talk about counterfeits and altered coins. While it may sound surprising, even pennies are sometimes altered to deceive collectors. Mint marks can be added or removed, surfaces can be polished to mimic higher grades, and coins can be artificially toned to appear more attractive. The 1990 NOS proof, for example, has inspired attempts at forgery due to its high value. This is why authentication by a reputable grading service is critical for any coin believed to be rare or valuable. Without professional verification, a coin's market value is essentially zero in serious collecting circles. The cultural symbolism of the penny adds another layer to the story. For generations, the penny represented thrift, patience, and small beginnings. Phrases like "a penny saved is a penny earned" reflect deep-rooted cultural values. The 1990 penny exists within this tradition, even as society debates the usefulness of the denomination. This symbolism gives the coin emotional weight beyond its monetary value, making it more than just a unit of currency. As production of new pennies has ended in recent years, interest in older pennies has increased. Collectors and the public alike are beginning to view pennies as relics of a past era. The 1990 penny, once modern, is now clearly historical. This shift in perception influences how people treat these coins, less as disposable change, more as artifacts worth examining. There's also the global perspective. While the 1990 penny is a U.S. coin, collectors around the world study American coinage. The Lincoln cent is internationally recognized, and American coins often appear in foreign collections. The global nature of the collector market means that demand doesn't come from one country alone. A high-quality or rare 1990 penny can attract interest from collectors worldwide, further shaping its market behavior. What truly keeps the 1990 penny relevant, though, is its accessibility. You don't need to be wealthy to start collecting pennies. Anyone can begin with coins they already have. This accessibility creates a broad and diverse community of collectors, from children searching through pocket change to experts studying die varieties under microscopes. The 1990 penny sits comfortably in the middle of this spectrum, approachable, yet capable of surprising depth. As we reach this point in the story, it becomes clear that the fascination with the 1990 penny isn't about finding instant riches. It's about discovery, learning, patience, and perspective. It's about realizing that value isn't always obvious, and that even the smallest objects can reflect complex systems of history, economics, and human behavior. As we move further into the journey of the 1990 United States 1-cent coin, the discussion naturally shifts toward long-term thinking, because coins are not just objects of the present moment. They are artifacts that move through time, gaining and losing attention as generations change. Understanding the 1990 penny means understanding how collectors think not just today, but decades into the future. That long-term collectors often approach coins with patience that borders on philosophy. They know that most modern coins, including the 1990 penny, will not suddenly explode in value overnight. Instead, value grows slowly, shaped by survival rates, collector interest, cultural shifts, and historical context. In 1990, the penny was abundant and ignored. Today, it is studied. Tomorrow, it may be remembered as part of the final generation of regularly circulating U.S. cents, especially now that production has ended. This gradual shift in perception is what long-term collectors pay attention to. One of the most important long-term factors is attrition. Coins disappear every year. They are lost, damaged, corroded, destroyed in fires or floods, or simply discarded. Zinc pennies are especially vulnerable. Once the copper plating is compromised, deterioration accelerates. This means that while billions of 1990 pennies were minted, the number of high-quality survivors shrinks continuously. Over many decades, this quiet loss can turn what was once common into something surprisingly scarce in top condition. Collectors who think long-term often focus on quality rather than quantity. Instead of saving hundreds of average coins, they look for one exceptional example. A perfectly preserved 1990 penny with full red color, sharp strike, and no surface issues represents a level of preservation that time works against. The longer time passes, the rarer such coins become. This is why top-graded modern coins often outperform expectations over long periods, even if they start from very low face values. Another critical aspect is documentation. Coins that are certified, photographed, and recorded in population reports become part of the permanent numismatic record. An uncertified 1990 penny might be ignored, but once it is graded and encapsulated, it enters a different world, one where it can be tracked, compared, and valued objectively. Over time, this documentation builds credibility and stability in the market, helping serious collectors distinguish reality from rumor. Market cycles also play a role. Interest in certain coin series rises and falls. At times, Lincoln cents become extremely popular, drawing in new collectors. At other times, attention shifts to silver coins, gold coins, or commemoratives. The 1990 penny exists within these cycles. When Lincoln cents are in focus, even modern dates receive renewed scrutiny. When they are out of fashion, values stagnate. Long-term collectors understand this rhythm and avoid making emotional decisions based on short-term hype. The role of nostalgia cannot be overstated. Coins often gain value when the generation that grew up with them reaches an age where collecting becomes appealing. People born in the 1980s and 1990s are now adults with disposable income. For them, the 1990 penny represents childhood, school days, allowance money, and everyday life before the world became fully digital. This emotional connection can drive demand in subtle but powerful ways. Another dimension is education and media. As more content is created about coins, videos, articles, guides, and discussions, awareness grows. Even exaggerated claims about massive values, while misleading, still bring attention to coins like the 1990 penny. Some viewers eventually dig deeper, learn the truth, and become informed collectors. In this indirect way, myths sometimes fuel real interest, even if they distort reality at first. There is also the question of legacy. Many collectors are not just collecting for themselves, they are thinking about what they will leave behind. A carefully curated collection of coins, even modest ones like pennies, can become a meaningful inheritance. A 1990 penny included in such a collection might not be the most valuable piece, but it contributes to a complete narrative, a timeline of American coinage that future generations can study and appreciate. Investment thinking introduces both opportunity and risk. Coins are not guaranteed investments. Markets change, tastes evolve, and liquidity can vary. A 1990 penny that seems desirable today may not attract the same attention tomorrow. This is why experienced collectors rarely focus solely on profit. They collect because they enjoy the process, the history, and the challenge. Any financial gain is viewed as a bonus rather than the sole purpose. Looking forward, the future of the 1990 penny will likely be shaped by how society views physical money as a whole. As digital transactions dominate everyday life, physical coins may become less familiar to younger generations. This could reduce casual interest but increase historical curiosity. Coins may transition fully from tools of commerce to objects of study and preservation. In such a future, the 1990 penny stands as a representative of a time when physical currency was still central to daily life. The story of extreme values, hundreds of millions of dollars, will probably never disappear entirely. Legends persist because they are exciting. But alongside those legends, a quieter, more grounded story continues. It is the story of collectors carefully examining coins under magnification, recording tiny details, comparing notes, and building knowledge piece by piece. The 1990 penny lives in this quieter story just as much as it lives in the louder myths. Ultimately, the importance of the 1990 United States 1-cent coin lies in its ability to connect people to history through something small and tangible. It teaches patience, critical thinking, and appreciation for detail. It reminds us that value is layered: monetary, historical, emotional, and cultural. And as time moves forward, that layered value is what ensures that even a simple penny from 1990 will continue to be talked about, studied, and remembered. As we continue deeper into this exploration, the focus now shifts to the human side of the 1990 United States 1-cent coin, because coins do not become meaningful on their own. It is people, ordinary individuals, passionate collectors, careful historians, and curious beginners who give these small pieces of metal lasting importance. The journey of the 1990 penny through hands, homes, and generations is where its story truly comes alive. Many collectors begin without any intention of becoming collectors at all. A person might notice a particularly shiny penny, an unusual detail, or simply feel curious about an old date. The 1990 penny often appears in these moments because it sits at the edge between modern and historical. It is old enough to feel distant, yet recent enough to be familiar. This balance makes it approachable. People recognize the design instantly, and that recognition lowers the barrier to curiosity. Search habits tell an interesting story. Every year, thousands of people search for information about the value of 1990 pennies. Most are not seasoned numismatists. They are everyday people cleaning out drawers, sorting jars, or inheriting collections. The act of searching is itself an entry point into learning. Even when the answer is disappointing, that most examples are worth face value, the process introduces new ideas: mint marks, condition, errors, grading, and rarity. The 1990 penny becomes a teacher. Roll hunting is another common behavior that keeps coins like the 1990 penny relevant. Some collectors obtain rolls of pennies from banks and carefully examine each coin. This practice is not about guaranteed profit. It is about the thrill of discovery. The possibility of finding a high-grade coin, an error, or a rare variety keeps people engaged. For many, the sound of coins, the smell of paper rolls, and the quiet concentration of searching are deeply satisfying. The 1990 penny often appears in these hunts, reminding collectors that history is still circulating. Stories of discovery play a powerful role in shaping perception. When someone finds an unusually well-preserved 1990 penny or a legitimate error, that story travels. It might be shared with friends, posted online, or remembered as a personal milestone. These stories, even when modest in financial terms, reinforce the idea that careful attention can reveal hidden interest in everyday objects. Over time, these small discoveries build a culture of observation and appreciation. Another important human element is mentorship. Experienced collectors often guide beginners, teaching them what to look for and what to avoid. A mentor might explain why most 1990 pennies are common, but also why condition matters and how to identify proof coins or errors. This transfer of knowledge keeps numismatics alive. The 1990 penny frequently appears in these teaching moments because it is accessible and familiar, making it an ideal example for instruction. There is also a strong emotional component to collecting. Coins can carry personal memories. A 1990 penny might remind someone of their first job, their childhood home, or a specific moment in time. These emotional associations give coins meaning beyond market value. Even if a penny is never sold or graded, it can still be treasured as a personal artifact. This emotional value is invisible in price guides, but very real in human experience. As collections grow, organization becomes important. Collectors use albums, holders, labels, and notes to document their coins. A 1990 penny placed carefully in an album slot represents a decision. This coin matters enough to preserve. Over time, these small decisions accumulate into a record of care and intention. The coin transitions from loose change to curated object, and that transformation is significant. Community is another key factor. Coin clubs, online forums, and social media groups bring collectors together. Within these communities, coins like the 1990 penny are discussed, debated, and analyzed. One person may share photos of a coin they believe is special, while others offer opinions and guidance. This collective examination helps separate genuine interest from misinformation and strengthens shared understanding. Even disappointment plays a role. Many people initially believe their 1990 penny might be extremely valuable, only to learn that it is common. While this can be discouraging, it often leads to deeper learning. Understanding why a coin is not rare teaches just as much as finding one that is. This process builds discernment, which is essential for any serious collector. Over time, repeated exposure to coins develops a trained eye. Collectors begin to notice subtle differences in color, strike, and surface quality. A 1990 penny that once looked ordinary may later be recognized as unusually sharp or well-preserved. This growing awareness is one of the quiet rewards of collecting. It transforms how people see everyday objects, encouraging patience and attention to detail. The 1990 penny also serves as a reminder that collecting does not have to be expensive. Unlike rare gold coins or ancient artifacts, pennies are accessible. Anyone can participate, regardless of budget. This inclusivity keeps the hobby open and diverse. The value of participation lies not in wealth, but in curiosity and care. As time passes, some collectors move on, while others remain deeply engaged. Collections are sold, donated, or passed down. When a 1990 penny appears in a collection decades from now, it will carry the imprint of the person who saved it. The marks of handling, the choice to preserve, and the context of the collection all become part of the coin's story. In the end, the lasting significance of the 1990 United States 1-cent coin comes from its relationship with people. It is a coin that invites attention without demanding it, that teaches without preaching, and that rewards patience rather than impulse. Through countless small interactions, it becomes more than metal. It becomes a shared experience across time. As we reach the final part of this long journey, everything about the 1990 United States 1-cent coin comes together into a single, clear understanding. What began as an ordinary piece of pocket change slowly revealed itself as something far richer in meaning than its face value ever suggested. The 1990 penny stands as proof that importance is not always loud, obvious, or immediate. Sometimes it is quiet, patient, and waiting to be noticed. This coin was born in a time when the penny was still an unquestioned part of daily life. In 1990, people paid in cash, counted coins at store counters, dropped change into tip jars, and saved pennies without thinking twice. The 1990 penny moved through countless hands, across cities and states, through moments both ordinary and meaningful. It was present during small purchases and big changes, during personal routines and national transitions. It absorbed history not through ceremony, but through use. Over time, as years passed and society changed, the role of the penny shifted. Digital payments rose, physical money faded from daily habits, and the humble cent began to feel less necessary. Yet instead of disappearing quietly, the penny gained a new kind of attention. People began to look backward. They began to ask questions. They began to examine coins not just as tools, but as survivors from a different era. In that shift, the 1990 penny found new relevance. The fascination with extreme values, with claims of pennies worth hundreds of millions of dollars, reflects something deeply human. It reflects hope, curiosity, and the desire to believe that something small and overlooked could change everything. While those claims do not hold up under real market scrutiny, they serve an unexpected purpose. They pull people in. They make people look closer. And once people look closer, many of them stay, not because of guaranteed riches, but because of discovery. What truly gives the 1990 penny lasting importance is balance. It balances myth with reality, abundance with scarcity, simplicity with depth. Most examples are common and worth face value, and there is honesty in that truth. But within that ocean of ordinary coins exist rare conditions, errors, and exceptional survivors that remind us that perfection and rarity can emerge even from mass production. That contrast keeps collectors engaged and grounded at the same time. The 1990 penny also teaches patience. It teaches that value is not always immediate and not always financial. A coin carefully preserved today may not reveal its full significance for decades, or its value may never be monetary at all, but historical or personal. That lesson extends beyond collecting. It applies to how we view objects, time, and effort. The penny becomes a metaphor for long-term thinking in a fast-moving world. For collectors, the 1990 penny represents continuity. It connects the earliest Lincoln cents of 1909 to the modern era, bridging generations through a single, familiar design. It shows how art, leadership, and national identity can be carried forward through something as small as a coin. Every detail, from Lincoln's portrait to the Lincoln Memorial, reinforces the idea that history lives not only in museums, but in everyday objects. For everyday people, the 1990 penny represents approachability. You don't need special knowledge or large amounts of money to engage with it. You simply need curiosity. That openness is rare in many fields, and it is one of the reasons coin collecting continues to thrive. The penny invites participation rather than intimidation. As production of pennies comes to an end and physical coins gradually fade from daily use, pieces like the 1990 cent will increasingly be seen as artifacts rather than currency. Future generations may hold one and feel the same sense of distance we now feel when we handle coins from the early 20th century. In that moment, the 1990 penny will no longer feel modern. It will feel historical, and that is where its true worth lies. Not in exaggerated numbers or viral claims, but in endurance. The 1990 United States 1-cent coin has endured through time, through hands, through changing values and changing systems. It has carried history quietly, without demanding attention, until someone chose to look closely. Whether you found this coin in a drawer, a jar, a roll from the bank, or a collection passed down to you, remember this: its value is layered. It is metal, memory, history, and human curiosity pressed into one small circle. The 1990 penny reminds us that even the smallest things can hold stories worth telling, and that sometimes the act of looking closely is more rewarding than the act of finding treasure.